Welcome to the Draft Stack. You've seen us a bunch of times now. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jordan and Jacob.
What's up?
What's good?
Talking top forwards. I'm sure this is probably the most excited I've been to talk about prospects in general, just because of, and I think we touched a little bit on it last stream. Forwards and wings are separate, and so you got a lot of talent in the forwards area, a lot of versatility. I don't know who wants to go first here, but just to introduce,
before we start, I just want to say, shout out Jalen Moore and prayers up for him. Devastating torn Achilles 4 days before the draft. I can't imagine what's going through his head right now. You know, he had 13 workouts. You had to assume that he's getting drafted based off that, or he was getting at least a two-way contract. You know, right. Just makes things a lot more harder on him. So just prayers
for sure.
Him.
Yep, speedy recovery to him. That type of injury, these Achilles injuries are been pretty frequent this year. I don't know what that is.
I think it's partially to do with we don't cross train as much anymore. Also, I can't remember which former player said it's because everybody wears low tops. That as someone who has definitely sprained their ankle a bunch in low tops and doesn't sprain them in high tops, like I'm not going to say he's wrong there. And then also, I think that defense requires so much more movement than it used to in the past.
Mm-hmm. Faster, quick twitch reaction. So hopefully he heals up well and is able to kind of recreate, refunction, get back to where he was, and hopefully he garners the same amount of interest. On a brighter note, consensus number one pick. There literally is not another guy going number one unless something absolutely absurd happens. We're talking Cooper
I will
Flag.
cry.
We're talking Cooper Flag. Jacob, Jordan, whichever one of you want to go.
I think this has to be Jordan. Come on now.
Okay, so as a Mavs fan, super excited. So I'm just gonna go through quick notes. He's the best high school defender I ever scouted. So I've been following Cooper, obviously, like all of us have been following Cooper for a long time, like since he was 14 or 15. We've been watching him. I think he's a true point forward, and I will point out that the Mavs have kind of been slow walking that he's probably going to be their starting point guard till Kyrie comes back. So that's going to be interesting. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I do think for his development, that's probably a pretty good idea. To be completely honest. Also, that's very Jason Kidd. Like Jason Kidd started Giannis at point guard. He started AK-47 at point guard. He had Paul Pierce play point guard. Luka Doncic, obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie. Like he loves tall point guards. So I would not be surprised if that's where we go. Joe Johnson, I think, also played for him. Definitely Darren Williams. Like he has a type, and it's tall point guards. Which as a tall point guard himself, that's probably why. But he was absolutely incredible. Kind of his biggest weakness going into the year was shooting. That's not a weakness anymore. Like he was incredible at shooting, and he got like so much better throughout the year. So now I would say his handle is probably his biggest weakness. But if you look at just how much he improves on it, like even his handle at the beginning of the season to the end of the season,
right.
Like there's a whole lot of improvement that's happened. Statistically, he led his league in PER, offensive win shares, defensive win shares for 48 minutes, offensive box plus minus, defensive box plus minus, and BPM. Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't just his league. That was the entire NCAA. Like he's that good. He's absolutely incredible. The other thing that I'll point out is, he did play in those Olympic scrimmages at the beginning, and at 16 years old, Anthony Davis even said, like, I can't guard this kid. He was 16. When Anthony Davis was 16, Anthony Davis was still a point guard. So this is wild how good Cooper is for his age. And then you're adding in the fact he should be a senior in high school right now. He should still be in high school. And he's just so clearly the best college player while being a year younger than even most of the youngest people in the class. Like, so he's just I don't know. It's really cool.
I mean, yeah, there's not that much we could say about him that already.
Like if he was 2 weeks older, he couldn't be drafted.
That's crazy. But what I was gonna say is it's not just like what you see, like the way like the stats and everything. It's the way he carries himself, the flair that he kind of has on that court. Like it's a rare type of like kind of I don't want to say aura because I think it's an overused word, but it's a kind of swagger that a lot of people don't have on the court, and he's able to have. And I think that he just knows that he's better than everyone. He knows what he has to do on the court. So, and that also just goes in hand with how good his feel is. So I think that that's another step up he has on everyone else.
You can tell, you can tell he was raised as a Celtics fan, and you can tell that because he talks about all the time, like his dad made him watch the '86 Celtics finals games, all of the playoff run, made him watch those while they were on road trips and stuff, and then you can tell that he's patterned parts of his game off of Larry Bird and Kevin Garnett. Like you can tell.
Yeah. I do hate the Kevin Garnett comps though. I don't really
not
see
yet.
it at all.
I'm not.
Well, I'm just talking about the aggression.
Yeah,
Well,
I get that.
I
was just bringing the point because I've seen a lot of mock drafts like compare him to Kevin Garnett, and I think
he's more of a wing.
Yeah, he's much more of a wing, much more of a handler than Garnett was.
I think what you're talking about, Jacob, is just the level of confidence that he knows what he wants to do on the court. He knows what's supposed to happen. He seems to be in control of what, like he has good self-control. Like you want that from your top player, and just has a level of poise that you don't expect at his age. And I think the funny thing here is I don't know if he's even done growing. Don't quote me on that for real, but he may not even be done growing. And that could be
he's
scary.
A legit 6'9" in shoes. Like
right. So the idea that he could maybe add an inch or two, I'm intrigued to see what that does to his game. I would say that one of the most interesting things is the defense for me with him, just lateral quickness. I do think that's going to improve with just NBA reps. And we'll see some of that, like some of the little growing pains here, but I think he's NBA ready. He's just been prepping. He's taking care of his body. I mean, even with the injury that he had, kind of with the ankle and stuff, it looked like they just were like, hey, we're going to do some treatment and we'll figure it out from there. Just they're prepared. He's got good support around him. And I think his motor is the other aspect that I'm extremely impressed with. He does not turn it off. He's constantly going. He's constantly processing. And I think we've talked about processing with some of the other prospects that we've covered, and he seems to do it really, really quickly. He moves to the next play very well. So I'm intrigued. I think the only thing that I would say that maybe could upgrade is less forced passes. In the NBA, guys are going to read that. So that will keep, if he's able to process that even faster, that will lower, any chances of him turning over the ball.
I'm really excited to see him in NBA spacing.
Yeah, that's kind of, it's a different game a little bit as far as court size, pace, minutes. And you talked about Jason Kidd and his use of him as a point forward. I'm intrigued for that from the perspective that he does not have to be perfect off top. He just has to be working through game reps. And
he's very Jason Tatum-ish in that once you throw a defensive scheme at him, he figures it out very quickly. Like Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, SGA, like they're really quick to pick up counters to something. And that's something I'm really excited to see. And I also think that Dallas, like a lot of people have kind of poo-pooed the fit in Dallas because Dallas is more of a win now team. And his strengths fit what Dallas wants so much. The Dallas right now the entire offense is built off of big to big passing.
Right.
Like
he's
incredible at it. Like he's absolutely incredible at it. Lively's a great passer back out of those pick and rolls. You got Davis is really good. Like the amount of alley-oops that he's going to throw to Davis and Lively and that they're going to throw back to him is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Extremely.
But also the defensive mentality that Dallas wants, he's going to perfectly mesh in there.
Yeah.
And it's also it's a fan base that, let's face it, is desperate to get back to someone that they can, that they can root for. So it seems like this is a match made in heaven.
And can he? And I think it might be I have in my notes here. Can he increase his counters off dribble? Not even off dribble, but without the ball, like moving without the ball, getting open, kind of some movements, and seeing what kind of that looks like when he has a scouting report. Obviously the first season is kind of like, hey, we don't know what this kid's going to bring us unless you've been scouting him, which, I mean, we've known he's the number one pick since last year. So now the question is how much improvement has happened since, he's been working on his game for sure. And just staying, keeping his body ready. I'm intrigued to see what he looks like game one. I know that's going to be an intriguing.
Not to take like too much time, but where would you guys have him, like, as far as like the past 10 years? Like, who would you have over him? Because I've seen some, Wemby for sure. Like, that one's easily clear. I also think.
Go on. Who are you gonna say?
I think Zion I would still have over him, even because everything now is the injuries with Zion. Like, which didn't I mean, there were some red flags, but it wasn't like as big of a red flag coming out. So I still think I had Zion over him, but I pretty comfortably have him over like Cade and like even Luka at the top. Luka was my number one that year. I think I'm pretty comfortable with him over Luka. There's so many other guys that I just think he's clearly ahead. But to me, Zion is clearly over him, and Wemby are the two that I'm pretty clear. But even going back, I think I'd still have AD over him. Just like looking at because I went back and I looked at the college tape, which I was a junior in high school when AD was drafted, so I wasn't following the draft as much as I do now. But the hype, like AD is 18 months older than me, and the hype was real for AD. Like he averaged like 9 blocks per 36 minutes in college. Like, it was ridiculous.
He's one of their best. I mean, if we're talking just Duke here for a second, he is arguably their best big man in the last 10 years, in my opinion. I could someone could make an argument for somebody else, but I think he's been the best big man.
Jason Kidd has been going on and saying that he is the best Duke prospect since Grant Hill.
I'm not mad at that, and the thing is, I just hope. Three things here. I think I talked about this with Jacob off air, but I can't see him playing any summer league games but one. Yeah. Maybe one game.
I think maybe two. They might.
It really depends.
Because Wemby played 2, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he played 2, and they pulled him immediately.
Yeah, Silver's probably
maybe 2.
Silver probably pulls the card and be like, play him for a game or two. Let's get a little bit publicity going on this thing.
Yeah, right. But outside of that, I just can't imagine that he's going to play too many summer league games. You're not playing your number one pick in games where guys are trying to earn it. To be honest,
you don't want to. Was it Markelle Fultz that got injured during the summer league? You don't want that.
I think so. Yeah. You want to kind of curb that. We spent a lot of time on the consensus number one pick. The second has got a lot of noise around him right now. I'm excited to talk about him because I'm still high on him, and that is Ace Bailey. I don't know if you guys mind if I take this one. So there's all this noise about agents and all this other stuff. And to me, I love covering the intangibles of the game, and I've watched a lot of tape on Ace. What he does, and I've said this before, it is so much easier for a guy who can go get a bucket to go get a bucket than to try to tell a guy to have this type of instinct. You're not drafting Ace and his agent. You're drafting Ace Bailey. So to me, you're drafting him for the talent. Now, do I think he could be a better playmaker? Maybe that's not his role. Some guys are career scorers. That's their role in the league. I think a lot of teams want a guy to be.
I think watching his high school tape, though, there's a lot of untapped potential with his passing.
Right. So there's the ability to get to that, but his main skill is imposing himself physically, imposing himself athletically, and just scoring the ball at a high rate. Movement, I think he's tough as a movement shooter.
Yeah.
His efficiency is pretty good.
I mean, there's nobody in this class that knocks down more difficult shots than Ace Bailey.
Telling you,
nobody.
The defense is something that no one is talking about enough. Just he could be. I think he has the potential to be a high-level defender, just with the physicals and what we've seen from him. Good body control. I do think his strength is going to get better as far as like when he focuses on just the workout of that part. He's not at Rutgers. He's not worried about school. He's worried about being a pro. And so to me, there's a lot of interesting things being said about him as far as the outside stuff. As long as he's not doing anything crazy, I don't care about any of that. This is a top 3 pick. You've been saying it.
Every report is couching it with he's just immature, but not immature for his age, just immature. He's normal for his age. So why are we reporting it then? That's what I want to know. You know, like I don't know, just wild.
I think there's so much talent here to be uncovered that's not being spoken about. I am kind of a basketball lover from the perspective. I don't care so much about the drama as long as it's not harming anybody. This kid is a kid. Like that, let's just put that out there. He's a kid. So
like
he's
complaining about him dancing in layup lines.
He's a kid.
That's the kind of stuff they're complaining about. Like, what are we doing
want from him? He's not.
Have you ever met a teenager?
Like I expect this from a kid. And to me,
I'm a retired youth pastor. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, every teenager I know dances in layup lines. like
to me, he's just. I think people have to focus on the basketball here. Him not committing to workouts. There's tons of prospects in the past that have done it. And I think that they're making a big deal out of what has nothing to do with his talent. The talent is here. He's a confident guy, which I think people are weird about confident prospects. They want him to be a little more humble. But, you know, I think he made some comments that people were upset about. And I'm like, I would want an NBA prospect that's going to be my pro that I'm picking top 5 to say, hey, the shots you taking the shots I take are hard for you. Not hard for me because I work on them. I'm not mad at that. So to me, I think he's a top 3 pick still. If he falls because people have lost their minds, that's on them. Whoever grabs him is going to get a dog. And so that's my perspective on him. He's 6'8". You know, he's 18. He has a 7-foot wingspan. I don't know how you pass on him. I hope no, but I just hope teams are smart about this and go beyond the reports and just focus on the basketball.
Can I play devil's advocate for a little bit? Let's, you know, to try to be balanced. These are the problems we have with him. You know, there's a lot of red flags on defensive consistency.
Okay. Agreed.
You know, they're like the flashes are incredible.
Yeah.
So there's that. You know, free throw shooting is a huge red flag. Especially for someone who's supposed to be an elite shooter.
Right.
There's, you know, he didn't pass very much
at all.
But that being said, this is actual word that I have written down. I believe the coach at Rutgers committed war crimes. This team, what was going on? Like, what was going on? The amount, him and Harper ran 15 pick and rolls all year. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, what are we doing?
They had a talented roster also. Like, they had besides for those two, they had their role players were not terrible whatsoever. Like they're talented guys.
I don't know. Watching records. I mean, they were not that talented. Or at least they were talented coming in. But the mesh, the fit, I honestly, the coach, I don't know what was going on, because it was like no players were ever put into a position to succeed, and so it was just let Dylan and Ace figure it out in isolation. That's not an offense. That's not how that works. And to be completely honest, I think Dylan made Ace look worse. Dylan destroyed Ace's stock to try to make his isolation numbers look better. I think that Dylan tanked Ace's stock, not on purpose, but just like this was the only way that he could score in this offense.
The fit, right? You're talking about fit here. They were weird on the court together when you would,
and it should have been. They should have been running pick and roll every single time, and they both could have averaged 25 doing that. Like the it's absolutely wild to me. Like the two guys that should have fit so seamlessly, and I understand Ace after having such a disastrous season being like, you know what, I don't want to be put back in that same kind of situation, so I'm going to try to control where I go to. I actually I get it with Ace, to be completely honest. I have him 5 because the red flags are there, but I am not going to be shocked if he ends up being the best player in this class. I'm not. Now, I'm also not going to be shocked if these red flags do make it to where I don't see him as a complete bust. I don't see that. I think he actually has a higher floor than a lot of people are talking about.
I agree.
I can't see him not getting a second contract. I don't see a world where he doesn't get a second contract.
So I think the thing that a lot of people fear is that Ace in his mind is obviously a primary option. He's the guy in his mind. He's going to be the guy on the championship team. He's obviously has that talent. Will he ever get to be that guy? Do you want a guy on your roster who thinks that he is by far the best and he needs to take all the shots? I don't know if you want to commit to that right away. And also just I think a lot of people have been linking the decision-making off the court with the decision-making on the court because, to be quite frank, I don't think that it is the best decision-making on the court. I think that he does have a lot of lapses in his discipline and shown on both sides of the court. Obviously, he still was very productive because I think he just knows how to score. If you're a guy that knows how to score in the NBA, you're going to see the court no matter what. If you're able to get in and score in a bunch, some team is going to pay you to do that.
Yeah,
agreed.
Now,
agreed.
So that being said, where do you think is a good fit for him?
I said the Nets, and the reason I said the Nets,
I think that's where he wants to go is the Nets.
The rumor is that that's where he got the promise from.
Granted, now here's the thing, for context here, for anybody watching. So I don't think people understand how these NBA transactions work sometimes, because both teams have to say yes to this. So 76ers have to be getting something that they believe benefits them in order to trade the number 3 pick. Yeah. Now, if you're not going to draft Ace at 3, which to me, arguably, he is the 3rd pick, then how far back are you willing to trade back?
Yeah.
Are they, and according to reports, and these reports can be kind of conflated sometimes, but what are they looking to get assets and grafting back so they don't make a mistake in as far as picking in the top 5? I just think the Nets are a good spot. I said the Rockets would be a great spot for him.
I would hate that. But that's because I'm a Mavs fan. That's why I hate it.
If the 76ers make a deal with the Rockets to swap picks, then I'm not actually mad at the 76ers for doing that from the perspective that they didn't pick somebody else at 3 and let Ace drop to whoever. I just think that's kind of the thing here, is not making the decision making where you're like, oh, I passed on Ace at 3. He just happened to fall to the next guy. You're going to trade back. Now, to me, those are the 2 places that I think, what's y'all's opinion? I think Rockets and Nets are the best spots for him to get.
I really want him to go to a good coach. And so to me, I really want him on the Sixers because I really think that Nurse can fix, I think him under Nurse. And then, I get it. Ime is good. Yeah. Well, I see, to me, I just don't, unless the Rockets do trade up, and I just don't see it. I don't see him falling all the way to the Rockets. But if they did, I do agree.
Houston trades back, then trades up for Ace.
Right, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
And so, to me, I just don't see. I want him to go to a good coach, and Nurse is the one to me where it's I think he could really help. Utah, I could see being a good fit for that
Will
reason.
Hardy?
I don't really want him in New Orleans. I really don't necessarily love him on the Nets. Just for that reason of I want a coach that will help him increase his strengths and shore up his weaknesses.
And Jordy's not bad.
Yeah, but I just think he might let him freelance too much. I want there to be a little bit of structure, but also enough for him to get to be ace. And I don't want him just being a spot up shooter the whole time.
I think Washington's a really interesting spot for him right now because he can come in, be that guy right away, but also like play.
But there's also the structure around him too. There's it's a good fit around him.
There's a clear young pecking order right there, and also I do think they have guys that would make up for his weaknesses. Like he wouldn't have to come in right away and worry about being a functional help defender or being.
Marcus Smart is a fantastic vet for him.
Yeah, exactly.
To be completely honest, that's a good vet. Like,
yeah. So, there you go.
Yeah, I think those are good spots, especially if you're not taking him at 3. Again, to me, he's still a top 3 pick. So I don't. If the 76ers are like, look, we're trying to win now, we don't really want to pick a kid. Like we want to get somebody who's like roster rotation ready, isn't going to start per se, things of that nature. Because I'm sure you guys heard some of the conversations where they were like, oh, does Ace start? And it's like, guys, we're doing too much here. We're putting him in conversations that he's not even putting himself in. I love the confidence from him, but he hasn't stated anything as far as some of the questions that have been asked. He hasn't put himself in a position where he said something that ostracizes him. So to me, if you're not going to pick him and you're saying you want to give Maxey, you want to give Paul George, you want to give Embiid an opportunity to win a title, I think he needs to go somewhere where the pressure isn't even more elevated, where he's
I think that time is past in Philly. I think that window's closed.
Oh, I agree with you, but they don't think so.
So go for Ace. You have the perfect vet to mentor him in Paul George. They're very close. They're already good, friends. Like to me, the fit is perfect in Philly. Quit overthinking it. Don't let this agent shenanigans mess things up. You're the best fit for him and for your team.
I just don't see. You don't want. Go ahead, Jacob. My bad.
The idea of a young core of Bailey, Grimes, McCain, and Maxey is so intriguing to me.
Agreed.
Like I think
Bona as well.
Oh yeah, Dem had a very underrated rookie year. I've been saying this is obviously a different conversation. I've been saying it for quite some time now that I think Philly needs to move past Embiid because they have such clear and obvious young talent on their roster that's getting held back by the expectation to win. I think throwing Ace into this while getting rid of other older guys would be so big for this team, and I think they would obviously be playoff contenders and make the playoffs right away.
Right.
In a weaker Eastern Conference, but also they would have that long-term outlook.
Yep.
It just makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. Again, he's number 3, no lower than 5. I've seen him drop to 10 on some of these boards, which I'm cackling about, but we'll let them believe whatever it is they want to believe.
That's just ESPN headlines.
I'll sell you some swampland because there's no way. Move on to another forward that I really like him a lot. And I've said this a bunch. He's not going to land where I want him to land, but wherever he lands, he's going to be impactful. Rasheer Fleming, out of St. Joseph's. Jacob, you want to take that one?
Yeah.
I'm with you, Kyle. I am a massive fan of Rasheer Fleming. I've had him in my top 10 for most of the year. I've had him and like Nee Clifford in that same like tier. I have him right now number 9 overall. I think
so.
Yeah, I think that he couldn't possess a more ideal build for like a big wing right now. 6'8", 7'5" wingspan, jumps out of the gym. He takes strong, hard steps. He's just he's a strong inside-out scorer. He's shown a great touch around the basket, and each year he's gotten better and better in every single aspect of his game, especially expanding his shooting range.
Yes.
His volume has gone up immensely. He's shown a lot of potential as a pick and pop type guy. Most of his threes were assisted, by the way. He's also just a strong, just rebounder who positions himself well. He's a good vertical athlete. He can also function pretty well horizontally, which is a big thing. I think that he's still growing as a one-on-one defender, and that goes also hand in hand with his ability to kind of blow past guys, which is still a work in progress. Also with his handle, but you're not drafting him to be a guy that's self-creating. You're drafting him to come off cuts, hit threes, and slash the bucket. Like, he is such an ideal role player, and when I see what Obi Toppin has been doing this entire playoff, I think Bashir can do the same exact thing in the league.
My comp has been Aaron Gordon, like that.
I like that.
Not what Aaron Gordon came out as, because Aaron Gordon came out as like he was kind of a playmaking wing, and I'm going to like create for myself. Like, I don't think he's got that bag that Gordon ended up not having, but everyone thought he had at the beginning. But I just like what he does on the Nuggets. That's what Fleming does, and every team in the NBA needs that. So, like, I don't get it. You're talking about someone who can easily. You can put him on anyone 4 through, you can put him 2 through 5. You're going to be fine. He's big enough to guard actual bigs, and he's fast enough to guard actual wings. Like, he might, De'Aaron Fox might be the problem on him. Like, okay, you have other guards for that. Like, he's going to massively improve a defense, and he's such a good, like, he does all the little things. So I really like Fleming. I'm high on him. Obviously, you're not drafting him to create his own shot. You're not drafting him to create for others. To me, it's like if PJ Tucker was actually the size of someone PJ Tucker should have been.
Right.
So PJ Tucker was like sneaky short.
So for me, I think it's a couple of things. The mobility is something, Jay, we talked about the steps. He screams switchable. Like this, like if I had to give him a descriptor, he screams switchable player. And there's not any team in the league that doesn't want a guy that can just switch and you don't have to worry about it. Do I think there'll be some growing pains to adjust speed? Maybe, of course, but he's a rookie. But I think he's disruptive. I think he's an elite, to me, a pretty elite finisher at the rim. And then, to be honest with you, the motor is kind of what I'm also impressed with again here. Just a lot of he just knows how to use his body on defense and on offense. I think the shot looks pretty good, especially because sometimes it looks like the wingspan makes his shot look so interesting to me. I think that's just kind of what comes out of watching him shoot. And then I think some of the spot up stuff is what's also intriguing to me. I think he could be he's going to need to figure out what happens when he's guarded on those threes. But overall,
I'm more shocked with his ranking on like composite boards than probably anyone else. Like, I don't know that don't have him in the first.
They have
like, what are we doing?
Dropping. So I have him between 11 and 25. And this isn't to say that I don't think he's talented. This is to say that he is that talented. Anywhere between 11 and 25, if a team lets him drop, he doesn't go past 25. I just can't imagine.
Like, I already have it marked that whoever gets him is my winner of the draft.
I mean, and I'm outing myself here a little bit, but as a Heat fan, he's not going past 20 if he's available. I know they have guard things that they're looking to address. That's cool. But if there's, and I've said this before, and we're going to talk about the next guy who, I've said before, which I don't think he drops below 15. But if you have a Rasheer Fleming, a Noah Asenge on the board below 15, then you take them. Like, you're picking.
You figure out everything else later.
Prospect. You don't pick. Well, we have listen, you figure out the need in the second round. You buy a second round pick and you figure that out. If you have this
free agency is after the draft.
If you have this player at your position, you draft him. The talent is unreal. I think he has so much like malleable skill, and wherever he ends up, I think the floor and ceiling is really, really high. seems like a kind of stoic player, lets his game do the talking, and I'm excited to see what he looks like. I think free throws just need to get improved a little bit more, but I think that's more of a reps thing than anything else. But overall, the athleticism, I think I have here 98th percentile in defensive rating. Come on, there's no way he makes it to the second round. And anybody who has him on a board that has him in the second round, Rasheer Fleming's not falling to the second round. We can just hang that up right now.
I'm pretty sure I was looking at this other day. Most sports have him below 25. Like his average rating probably across boards is between 25 and 28, I'd assume.
I'm perplexed by all of that.
And I don't know if it's because he's slightly older than I don't think he's even that much older.
He's only 20 years old.
He's closer to 21 than he is to 20 and 19.
Yeah.
And he played for a mid-major. But also he has like all like the intangibles that you need for an off-ball guy. You're not asking him to come in and be a self-creator. You're asking him to
and
be
he was coached well.
Yeah.
He was, right? Patino's still a good coach. He's coached well. I don't know, man.
Like he just seems a guy that's destined to thrive in a scaled down role.
Agreed. It just simplifies for him. And a team that just says, "Hey, Rasheer, we just need you to defend, get stops, hide a couple of maybe there's a team where they have a player on the floor who's not that great at defense. They're able to hide him because they have Rasheer on the floor. He just fits wherever he goes. He's gonna fit. So to me, I can't imagine that he's gonna drop below 25, unless there's something that they're not telling us as far as physicals or something like that. But overall, I just can't imagine that he's not going to end up getting drafted before. And funny enough, I said 15. What I can imagine this being scarier than the Oklahoma City Thunder adding Rasheer Fleming at 15.
Yeah.
I just want to say that's a possibility. That at 15, if a bunch of other teams go, we're going to pass on Rasheer.
I feel like we're at the point where whoever OKC gets at 15, we're just going to fall in love with the idea of the fit there and just be like, how did OKC get him? Like, I feel like
Howard, Essengay, Fleming, they're going to get one of those guys.
Yeah.
Easily. Because I think
Carter Bryant, somebody. Yeah.
So
Nick Clifford.
To the next prospect, which I just brought up, Noah Essengay. You guys, either one of you can take this one. There's so much to say about him too.
I like him. He's kind of we talked about Fleming. We would like it if he could create a little bit more for himself. That's Essengay. Essengay's not quite the defensive stud that Fleming is, but he's still a really good defender. But he gives you the more offensive juice out of the two. So I can kind of understand, I have them one spot apart on my board. But I do understand the people who like Essengay more than Fleming, because I get that he gives you the more offensive juice and he's younger. He's taller, but he's not as long. So Fleming is, I think Fleming is going to be the better defensive guy in the NBA. But I also think it's really interesting. My comp for him is Steven Jackson, which he measured out way taller than Steven Jackson, but I don't know anybody at that height who I can say, he's like a second, third ball handler at that height that isn't an automatic Hall of Famer. So I wasn't sure what to change the comp to when he got to that height. I think that he does a little bit of shooting. He doesn't shoot as much as you want for somebody there. But I do think that the self-creation, the bit of ball skills, I think also we need to just point out, teenagers don't affect winning this much in Europe. He affected winning. Him and, we talked about it with his teammate Ben Seraph. When we talked about Saraf, we said teenagers don't affect winning, but for some reason him and Essengay do. And they were important parts of their team winning in the playoffs. So that's something that I'm going to say is pretty important for projection.
Agreed.
Yeah. Essengay's got to be probably one of the 5 most fun prospects I've had, evaluating, just because there's so much there to work with. I think talking about athletically, you obviously, Jordan, you mentioned just the size and mobility and the ability to be a ball handler at that time. I do think that he does move a bit clunky. Like when he has make those pivots to make like tough passes, like those like skip passes, I do think they are a tad slow and he moves a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
I think he's grown into his body. I think he grew way faster than he was ready for.
I was about to say, I think that he's still 18 years old. Like he has so much time to grow into that frame, and like he's still.
And he was like 3 inches shorter 2 years ago.
Exactly. Like he's still figuring out how to do it, and also him being a clunky mover kind of goes back to why I'm not sold as him as a shooter, because I think the form is pretty inconsistent and slow at times. I think his base is a little bit wonky, but he does have strong legs, that's for sure.
Yes.
You see that when he gets into the paint.
Yeah, his frame is excellent. Like he's going to put on weight. Like I'm not worried. I know he's skinny right now, but he's going to put on weight.
What do you guys think of him as a spot-up shooter? What do you think of it?
Passable.
I don't love it right now. I'm pretty. That's probably what I'm very concerned about at this moment with him.
That is to me his swing skill.
Yeah.
That you're just like, okay, this would be nice if he had this. If he has it, the ceiling gets that much higher. If he doesn't have it, you're like, this is still a really good player.
If he doesn't have it, he's James Johnson. If he does have it, he's an all-star. That's where we're at.
And to me, just the size, you guys just addressed the growing into his body and filling the frame out and everything. I said it with Cooper. I'm going to say it with him. He may not be done growing. He may not be done growing. We measure him in a year, and he's probably an inch or two taller.
I would not be surprised.
That just, to me,
so
adds to
we're talking about a strong 7'3".
Right. So the motor is good. Basketball IQ is pretty good. I do think he has some lapses defensively occasionally. I am going to say what I say about a lot of prospects. It's probably a given, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do think he needs to get stronger for sure. I do think that him playing pro helps. However, I do think the NBA is going to show him there's a certain kind of like structure to your frame you're going to have to kind of deal with some of the forwards that are in the league here. And then also, I think he could upgrade his footwork. Jacob, you talked about him being a little bit clunky and just finding his footing on that. Interesting with the free throws. I think he's going to generate a lot of free throw shooting, but he's going to need to make sure that he's more proficient at that. But overall, I mean, there's not much to nitpick with him because of his age. Just the ability
and production.
He's just going to, and to me, he may not even be wherever he ends up. I'm sure that the team has a plan where he's not the focal guy. You're not making him the focal guy at this point. He's either slotted to be in your starting lineup because you want him next to somebody that it works for, or he's coming off your bench at like seventh person at this particular stage. And that's still not bad. I think he's going to have good minutes. And I think his core skills are going to just improve throughout the year. So to me, I'm excited to see what he looks like. I'm excited to see what his adaptability looks like overall, just adapting from European game to NBA and seeing what.
I'm a little sad that Nick's not on this pod, because Nick has him at 2 on his big board. Like Nick loves, like if you think that if you're one of those people who just like feels like we're too low on Isenge, you should go talk to Nick. Like Nick loves him.
I'm currently working on an article, so y'all look out for that. But like on Noah at the moment, it just, to me, there's a lot of high upside. I can't. Now there are some people that I've seen recently that had him kind of do the same thing as they did with Rasheer, where they have him falling like below 20, falling into the second round. I'm confused what people who they have as prospects ahead of some of these guys who just have the natural physicals that you want in the prospect. So I want to.
And their production's not bad. It's not like they're just like terrible at the other stuff. Like that's the thing that's weird for me with like Fleming and Isenge. It's not like they're only measurables. Like they also do stuff. So that's the weird part.
There's action, and I guess this is kind of like.
That's actually a good segue.
This is a different kind of like, reference here, but Behringer is a farther away prospect than the two we're mentioning. Obviously, it's different positions, so I'm comparing apples and oranges.
Well, I mean,
here.
the next guy we're going to talk about is Carter Bryant. Like, that's kind of a good segue. Like, Carter Bryant is the measurables. That's what he is right now. And I think that's probably why I would assume the three of us are lower on him than like some other people have him super high for the measurables. And those are the same. Those are the same people who have Essengay and Fleming so low. That's what's confusing to me. Like, like Carter Bryant, I think he's definitely a first round prospect. I'm not saying that he's not, but he only played 19 minutes a game. He's a very, very raw player because of that. I think he's a great defender. I really think he's a great defender. I think he's a good shooter. I think his measurables. I think his measurables are excellent. I also think in high school he ran a little bit of point. So I think it was Nate Duncan was talking about in high school he felt like he compared a little bit to Andre Iguodala. Like I'm not going to go that far, but like he didn't get to show any of that at Arizona. So there's a lot of stuff that he could do in high school that he didn't show at Arizona. And I don't know if that was Arizona didn't trust him or if they just felt like they had better options other places. And that's where your evaluation has to be on him.
Arizona had a lot of veteran forwards and a lot of veteran scrappy guys that can play off the wing, like that would have taken Brian's minutes, like Trey Townsend and Del Orso. Like those guys are proven college products. They're going to get minutes over a freshman.
For sure.
But everything that Brian did was in a backseat this year, and he just did it. I feel like he was one of those guys. I've said this a lot with a lot of guys in this class, but there's so many guys that do a great job of maximizing the touches they got. And Brian is definitely at the top of the list that does that. Like, he's very far away from being that efficient self-creator. But, like, he did such a good job just, like, getting to the rim off cuts and, like, especially in transition, like, filling those lanes. Like, he did such a good job. And I think that just speaks further to how his feel is for overall in the game and how he's one of those guys that can easily translate. He can easily translate to any and most schemes that coaches will come up with. And also just the fact that he's just a shooter with size. Like, somebody.
There's also a difference with so we also had that was the red flag for Jace Richardson was the minutes. However, there are other red flags with Jace Richardson. This is the only red flag with Carter Bryant. So that's why I'm higher on Carter than I am on Jace. Is for that reason.
And to me, I have some of my notes here. He doesn't stop the ball much. Like, he's not like the ball doesn't stick with him. He's not running the clock out.
He makes very fast decisions.
Yeah, the 89th percentile as far as on the cutting, which is insane, especially for somebody his age. Just like making the ability to process quickly, and I think teams love guys like Carter who have the size and also didn't need to be the guy to be productive. And I think some of that is why they have him so high, which I'm not mad at you taking a swing here with him. I think there's a lot of upside, especially defensively. People don't crucify me for this. My comp, and I asked you guys a couple of weeks ago about this, my comp for him is Trey Murphy at this moment. And now last season, Trey started to shoot the three ball at a prolific rate. So that's a large separation right now. But coming in, I think they're very comparable players as far as what they do, off cuts. They're good defenders. So to me, I think that's his comp. I don't know if that's the ceiling. It's to be seen what he looks like. You guys can give me feedback on that.
It's funny that you said that because the other day I was scrolling on Twitter. I saw a question. Someone asked, who would be the most likely to beat Trey Murphy in this class? The first person I thought it was Carter Bryant, just because of the fact that how athletic he is, how he's able to shoot, and how I think that I know we barely saw him as a ball handler. I think the flashes were there. I think he also has that motor to do so, just to be a vigorously cut like Trey Murphy does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would also say my comp is gonna sound like I'm lower on him, but there's a reason for it. Mine is Kevin Knox. And not because I think that he's going to be that level, but like Kevin Knox came in and literally every single person had a different kind of outcome of what kind of forward they thought Kevin Knox was. That's what it is for is like you can see he's going to be a spot up shooter. You can see he's going to be a great cutter. You can see he's going to be a point forward. You can see like all these different options. Like, you know, there were people who were saying like that Kevin Knox's comps were like Rashard Lewis or Giannis Antetokounmpo. And like people were like both saying, I can see that for both of them. So that's how I feel about him. Is he can go so many different. He really is a raw prospect, but there isn't a red flag with that rawness, which is what makes it so unique.
Can see him in Atlanta, by the way. That's best.
That's a great fit.
In my opinion.
That's a great fit.
Is Atlanta.
Also, OKC would be a fantastic fit, and so he's another one of those.
Adding anything to this current roster after making the finals, you know,
if Indiana hadn't traded their pick, oh boy,
I really like the idea of him in Chicago. Chicago's a fast.
Yeah, him and Matas as the forwards. Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
just give you two vertically explosive guys that you can just run down the court.
If Houston keeps 10, I kind of expect them.
That's who Tankathon has. Tankathon has them taking Brian right now.
Yeah, if Houston keeps the pick, he is a definite Houston like perfect fit.
Not mad at that. From one,
which moves him. So I have him at 23, but I would have him higher on my board if I knew he was going to Houston. Like that's what I'm saying. Or I have him higher on my board if I knew he was going to Miami or if he was going to OKC. So that's just kind of how I am.
Which, from one defensive-minded forward to another defensive-minded forward in Noah Penda, which I think he's going much higher than people have him. I don't know how people have him so low because there's a team that's.
I think it's the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Like people just look at that raw shooting number and just say, "Oh, he's just." We're going to ignore all the rest of the context.
Which to me, okay, the shooting is not his best skill. However, the defense and playmaking is what I've like zeroed in on. He finishes well at the rim. I think he moves without the ball pretty well as well.
That's interesting because if you take out his dunks, I actually think his rim numbers aren't as good as
right.
They like I think on layups he was only like 53% on layups.
Rugged. So. He's an interesting finisher. And I think that's to your point that there's some measure. He's a rugged finisher.
There's some inconsistency in his game.
Yeah,
but not like that are red flags. But again, not as much red as some of these people have them.
No,
he has a weird savviness with his finishes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't look the prettiest, but it goes in.
He's got a man's body too.
He's this is a grown man.
he's a big dude.
Dude, yeah,
same measurables as Carter Bryant, actually, if I'm correct. So
they're very similar.
I think he's taller also. I think he's 6'8".
Yeah, I think he's an inch taller.
So he does crash the offensive boards pretty well too. I think that's one of his stronger skills.
I've got that written down.
And I think the creation is going to be interesting just because, and I don't think you bring him in as a creator at this point or at all. I hope teams realize that, which these people are pros, so they should know. We had Luka yesterday. Anyway, we should
That's
know.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Straight line driver, but I do think his handle could be a little bit tighter. There's not much to nitpick with him either. I just think his main skills are mostly defensive minded. And his finish, his ability to finish around the rim. Go ahead.
With the new CBA, I would kind of like a team to stash him because the new CBA, I think drafting and stashing is going to suddenly become a lot more valuable. And I think that he is the perfect experiment for that. That being said, Jokic was stashed a year. Obviously, that worked out fantastic. So, I really kind of would definitely if he's dropping to the second round, I actually would not stash him at that point because I want him on that cheap of a contract. So yeah, that's just where I really think that Penda is a very good player for the future. Like I think he's he just does all these little things that are positives.
And for me, there's just a clear line of what his floor is. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's significantly higher than most other guys in this range, just because he's already he's one of the more impressive defensive stoppers in this
And
class.
especially the other guys on this list for this position.
Right. There's a lot of raw guys with a lot of question marks. I think obviously the shooting is a question mark, but because he is such a good defender and I think he just has such a natural feel for the game and plays so hard, I think it kind of outweighs that. And you just take a guy with that type of value that he's going to have a calling card in the league. Like at that, if he falls to the second round, like he has to be one of the first guys off the board.
Oh yeah.
And he has good feel, a really good feel. If I had to pick if I had 3 spots that I had as best fit, Spurs is one.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that they pick.
Him and Wemby together would be nasty.
And they do need additional defense. He works. I thought Rockets again here could probably use him as a defender. He doesn't help with the shooting so much, but he adds to their defense. They have a lot of.
I think a sneaky fit is the Celtics.
Ooh. Agreed. If he falls that low, I could absolutely see that, especially this year with Tatum being out, unfortunately. I think you give him minutes and just see what he can do. Obviously, the Celtics are not going to phone in the season here. I'm just saying that I think he fits a team that's ready to still compete. And to me, he really just works. So if he can stabilize the shooting, I think that adds to the ceiling here.
Well, and also, like, the Celtics are a team where I trust that he would learn to shoot.
Oh, for sure.
So that's another reason.
My only thing with the Celtics fit is if you have Jordan Walsh already, who's already been in the league for quite some time, does similar things to him, calling card his defense, could handle the ball a little bit. He's yet to figure out how to shoot. I don't believe that he's going to ever figure it out, just from the confidence standpoint. And I don't know if Penda will ever either.
And that's to be seen. I feel like there might be. I feel the thing with Walsh is I never thought he was a good shooter. Didn't think he was going to be a good shooter. I think the feel between the two players is different, and so that 100%. Might help with the shooting.
I actually think too, if we're talking about Celtics, he's closer to Tillman than he is to Walsh. Because I almost had Penda as a big instead of a forward.
Right.
So I really think that I really like his fit on the Celtics personally, because I really think he does the things that Mazzulla really wants his players to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Switchable, and that's some of like the identity aspect of the Celtics, right? So you want to be defend at a high level. You want a guy to be in position to get stops. They always look to add guys who have a high IQ on defense, much more than the offense because of the way they run offense. So to me, he could definitely work there. It's funny because we're questioning here with Penda, but our next guy, I think, has as many questions as any person on this list. And
by far the widest range on draft boards.
Very long, large range. I'm surprised that there aren't more teams thinking of taking a swing at him. I've seen him pretty low, but I hope I'm pronouncing this right there. But I think it's Edu Theo. Theo. Okay. Theo. Out of Arkansas. Jordan, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So he's from my area of Africa, West African, and plays for my Razorbacks. So I like him. The comp that I have been using for him is Lou Dort, but he's the size that Lou Dort thinks he is. And so he's going to he's going to commit a charge and just hope the refs don't call it every time. That's his offensive game, and he's really good at it. He's a really good defender. You are never going to question Theo's effort. Like, you're never going to question it. He was Arkansas's best player. That was hands down. It was supposed to be Boogie Fland. He was better than Boogie this year. He was out
Did you mute? I think you might have muted.
Yeah.
No, audio is on. It's kind of on a run there.
Yeah, he was. I was into it.
Yeah, me too. No, we can't hear you, but I'll let Jacob go and see if you can pop back in.
No.
Still can't hear you. That's kind of crazy. Having some technical difficulties, folks. Jacob, please take over where you left off.
So I touched upon him in our sleepers video. He was one of my main sleepers. I said this also, like you said, Kyle, his draft range has been pretty drastic. I've seen him as high.
1, 2.
You're good.
Okay.
I'll finish on my sentence. So you can go, Jordan. I was just saying that I've seen him as high as 2 on some boards, and I've seen him as low as in the 50s. So he's probably one of the, if not the most controversial forward.
So I'm not sure where I cut out at, but like you never once questioned his effort.
Right.
He was Arkansas's best defender by far. And he was also their best player by far, even though it was supposed to be Boogie Flame. Like you never had to question his effort. He is super good in transition on both sides of the board. He's an amazing transition defender, and like the transition offense is what got all the highlights. But his transition defense is awesome. And as we have seen in these finals, transition defense is important.
Huge.
And it can absolutely swing games. And so I do think, obviously he can't shoot. So that's your worry. That being said, he's a forward now. Last year, he measured 2 inches shorter at the combine. So he's an actual forward-sized player now. And that changes your evaluation. A wing who can't shoot is different than a forward who can't shoot. And he's a forward who can't shoot.
And I think if I remember correctly, he's now 6'8". I've heard some talks that he's a little bit taller, 7-foot wingspan. He's the same age as Rasheer.
His height without shoes is 6'6".
Yeah, so he's 6'7", and he measured last year like 6'5", or 6'4", without shoes. Like, so he's much taller.
Still growing is crazy. I do think his defensive discipline can be a little bit better. I'm nitpicking here. Because that's his best skill, just the defense. He has a lot of vertical explosiveness, and I think also one of the things that he can improve most, we talked about the shooting, is just increasing the 3-point reps. Not so much in game, because I don't think he's ready for that yet, but in behind the scenes where he's just continuing to work on his game. I think you talked about a comp for a different forward or maybe wing, but I think possibly he could be Jay Crowder as far as comp is concerned. And so
I think he's already stronger than Jay.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing. He's already stronger than Jay.
So
Jay's a strong person,
right? Yeah, he's a solid dude. So I am, I have my notes. He's a good defender off the bench as floor, which you still want on your team. And then the ceiling is Jay Crowder as far as a 3-and-D starter who, if the shooting can develop here, just lock up guys. Because I think that's one of the things here with the 7-foot wingspan that I'm excited to see wherever he falls. I think second round would be early second round. I don't think he goes past 38. If he's available to this, and I'm thinking names here because I've looked at the boards so much. If he's available at 38 to the Spurs, they're grabbing him off the board. He doesn't drop lower than that. Like 38 isn't bad. I think he's 8 spots into the second round, and he can be as high as maybe 15 if the Thunder decide to go that route. So he has a lot of a range here of where he could end up. I think.
I would hate him on the Thunder.
I'm sure Toronto.
I don't like rooting against Razorbacks. So
if Toronto had any chance of getting him, that'd be incredible.
If they had a second first or a second rounder.
They had a 39th. So
Brooklyn could add him because they have 26 and 27. So if he's available still, at that point, if a team doesn't take a swing here, he could absolutely end up in Brooklyn. They have 4 chances to grab him. So I'm impressed with him. I think he's a really good defender. That's his skill. Not every prospect is going to be a two-way guy entirely. And I don't think he scores at a high enough clip per se that you're going to be like, oh, well, he's a full two-way guy. I think he's really good at defense, figuring out on offense, which I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not mad at the figuring out on offense. I think you give him time to develop here. So wherever he ends up, I think he just ends up being a off the top, being a good team defender, good individual defender also. But I think he helps the team elevate their defensive prowess, which leads us to a different prospect on the other end of the spectrum. Does not have a problem with offense at all, and that is Will Riley. I don't know what to say about him.
He's confusing. He's confusing.
The frame is strange because he doesn't look like the strongest guy at all.
He also doesn't look like he's that tall. Like
no, he's 6'9".
He does not play like he's 6'9". He plays like he's 6'6". Like,
right.
It's weird.
Can shoot off the dribble.
Mm-hmm.
There are people.
He's a shooter. He's definitely a real shooter. I have no questions about his shooting.
Yes.
It's everything else that's like maybe.
Jacob uses this phrase pretty often. Tweener, screaming like he screams a tweener. And so there's this possibility where teams are like, how do we use this guy? I think the shooting, the stretching of the floor is something that's going to be an initial like, hey, that's something he does well. We can use that. And then
I think the hope is that he turns into Tobias Harris. That's the hope.
Which you're not mad at that. Good at mid-range, good at the free throw, good at three. His defense is it's like completely other end of the spectrum.
Passable. I don't that's what you want is Tobias Harris. You want at least that level of defense. I don't know that
he add like 20 pounds. Just 20 pounds. And obviously he doesn't have to up and all at once, nothing unhealthy here. But like his frame, Will Riley's frame is just intriguing to me. Wingspan is actually not that long. In fact, it might be,
which is probably why he looks like he plays smaller, is because of the wing. We're expecting someone that size to have a huge plus wingspan.
Which is what I thought too. But he's 19. He's closer to 20 than he is to 18. But definitely an interesting prospect. I think he's going to be versatile from the scoring perspective. And I can see him with the Jazz. I can see him with the Wizards, possibly, as options, just because they are teams that are in the middle of figuring out what it is they want to do. I'm not sure what they're going to do with marketing with all that.
What do you think about that Grizzlies pick?
I'm not mad at the Grizzlies picking him just because of what they have defensive.
What is it, 23 that they have, right?
Yes.
16, 23. Yeah.
And so he gives them floor spacing that they need.
And I think they can cover up for the other stuff. Agreed.
And I mean, you have Jalen Wells, who defender. You have his name just traded for
Jaren Jackson is going to be
Jaren Jackson, obviously. Defender. Yeah. So they've got a lot of guys. I think they might play a little bit because of his frame. I think they might play in some interesting lineups because Edey is out.
I think he's a 3 right now more than a 4. But I think you want him to be a 4 to be successful. So I think you're gonna want to build him into a 4. But as of right now, I think he's a 3.
I'm really interested in him as a secondary ball handler rather than as a kind of like scoring 4. I think his ball handling is a little underrated. I think I know you, Kyle, he has to add weight, like you said. I do think he's one of the guys that his leanness kind of benefits him. He is pretty slippery off screens, kind of like getting past more physical guys. Obviously, the NBA, when guys are faster and stronger, it doesn't help. But he kind of has a savviness and smoothness to his ball handling game, which is I'm intrigued by. Obviously, do see him more as a 3-level kind of scorer than that. But I do think that upside's really interesting. Like he also has, I think he has a good pace also to this game.
I agree with that for sure. the ball handling will be interesting to see what he does. And here's the thing. Maybe he doesn't add the weight, but maybe he adds the strength.
Right.
And there's a way, conditioning wise, the workouts, some guys' frames are just what they are. Like, I'll give you an instance. Now, just if you popped into here just now, I'm not comparing the two players, so please don't throw darts. Kevin Durant is a strong player. He doesn't look, but he's a strong player. He didn't add a bunch of muscle per se, but he added a lot of strength so that he could continue to be physical with his game. He went from three at the three position, playing small forward, to playing power forward. So there's adding strength here that I think would be interesting. Funny enough, I don't know if he falls this far, but if he's available at 29, I could see the Suns taking him. It could work. Adding, I don't know what's going to happen with the trades. I have no idea where Durant is going. However, adding another scoring forward, obviously they're not comparable. As another disclaimer, they're not comparable. Just saying, adding another, comparable from the perspective of scoring, just the ability to score, the natural ability to score. Don't know that he falls that far. However, if he's available at that, I'm not mad at it. There's a lot of ways this can go. He could also end up on the Nets. Again, they have 4 chances to grab.
Anyone could end up on the Nets.
Right. They can add whoever they want. They have so many chances.
It's like Cooper's probably the only one who's not, for sure, not a net.
Correct. Sounds like a threat.
Funny enough, we're talking about scorer. We talked about scorers here, and this kind of leads us directly into our next prospect, and that's.
Can I go first on him? Because I have questions. Okay, so Alex Tahui is he's a 20-year-old, 6'9" forward, plays for the Sydney Kings in Australia. His comp for me is like Ryan Anderson, but the more I was looking at that, like Ryan Anderson could actually rebound. To me, I'm not sure what Tahui does other than shoot. Like, right? Like, so. And I'm not sure that he's even that elite of a shooter. So I hope Nick is not going to shoot me over the stream while he's watching this. But I'm not totally sold on him. Like, I really wanted to like him. But I've just not seen it with him. And it's kind of weird because he's been the Australian prospect that everybody's been pushing for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And I've really not I like Rocco more than him. And that's probably a hot take. And I'm not even super high on Rocco either. But to me, he's like a shooting specialist, but the shooting isn't special enough for me. So I'll let you guys hopefully, have more positive things to say about him so that, we're not just totally negative on this guy.
I mean, before I talk about him, I kind of want to highlight that the gap, the drop off between Riley and all those guys above him to kind of the last two guys is pretty massive. It's totally a couple different tiers between these couple.
So I have Riley at 27 and Tahui is 43.
I have Riley at 30 and I have Tui at 44. So similar ranges. I mean, the thing with Tui is he definitely has confidence when he shoots the ball, whether he's making it self-create or it's off the catch.
Yeah.
He definitely had a pretty good volume this year. 34%, you obviously want that to be higher, especially as a guy that's markets himself as a sharpshooter. Significantly better than how he was last year. Last year when he was shooting the ball, he kind of seemed a little hesitant when shooting. It wasn't as fast. It was a little flatter. So he definitely showed a lot of improvement from that range. The shooting splits were solid. You kind of hope they would be better. 73% from the free throw line is pretty worrisome. He also had, but I think that he showed a lot of his stuff is flashes. That one dribble pull up, it's a pretty nice one dribble. It's pretty clean. I think he has pretty good footwork. I know you said that he didn't really rebound the ball very well. He is more physical than advertised for a white Australian shooter. He is not afraid to go into the paint and crash the boards. He's not afraid to absorb contact. That's something. So he's not just a one-dimensional shooter guy.
And he was listed at 6'7", and he actually came in at 6'9". So that is helpful.
I thought going into this class he was going to be a wing, not a forward, and that kind of completely shaped my mind.
Yeah.
He's more sound than he's not going to be a defender, but he's more of a sound defender than a disruptive one. Like he's not going to be making all the defensive plays, but he'll rotate the right way, he'll get in the gaps, and he will hustle. So he's just interesting because I think he's probably a long-term prospect.
Yes.
I've seen the comps.
I think he's stashed if he gets drafted. It's not.
I agree.
It's not a 1 year.
I've seen the Joe Ingles comps. To that, I think Ingles is. I trust him more as a ball handler and a defender and a much better shooter
and a passer and like there's so much more that Ingles. Yeah.
So
I
think the Ingles comp is only because they're Australian. Like,
which is
that's the only
lazy. Very lazy. Not a fan of that comp at all. I did watch tape on him. I unfortunately wasn't the most impressed when you talk about comparing him to the other forwards. And this is not a knock on him. I think he does round out his talent at some point and just become somebody rotational. I don't think he's a star unless something drastic happens where he flips a switch and kind of things slow down for him, really.
And that's the thing, is he could just stay in Australia and become a star in Australia. So
which is true.
Does he want? True. Does he even want to give up that? Because like I think he would at a certain point be the best player in the NBL. Like I think that's totally possible.
He didn't go to was it him that didn't go to Gonzaga because I think he was originally committed to Gonzaga, then wanted to stay in Australia just for the more publicity.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's to me, especially with forwards, he just isn't great defensively at all. I think he can be decent positionally as far as like just within a team defense. But he lacks explosiveness to me. I've kind of said some similar things about another prospect that I'm not going to pick on him right now, but he just doesn't do a lot with a lot of force. I do think he does crash the boards well enough. But from a forward perspective, you want your forward to pick, to rebound a lot more. And I do think we'll see if he can be as physical. The question marks here are, is he going to get valuable NBA minutes? And can he carve out a role? I'm not low on him. I'm kind of neutral. I'm kind of in the middle. I just would like to see what he does in an NBA pace. Overall, I think the ceiling is maybe 3-D if he can put the defense together. The floor is decent reserve. And I'm not trying to. I would love for him to prove all of us wrong here.
Me too. Yeah.
But I don't think he's higher than that. And if I had to pick somewhere where he works, I do think he has a high IQ still. That's one of the biggest things. Maybe the Warriors could use another guy that shoots the ball well.
Shooting is still the most important skill in the NBA. So right. I think there is a path to him getting minutes in the NBA. Even if it's just on a two-way contract for right now, and then maybe he figures out these other areas afterwards.
Right. So, listen, the frame is 6'9".
There's no red flags about the frame, that's for sure.
So there are tools here. It's just a matter of where he ends up and if they're able to kind of shape him, realize, hey, look, you're 6'9". Like, be 6'9".
Realize it. Yeah. Be 6'9". Yeah, that's great.
And so I think that's kind of where, I don't have much more to say about him now. I have much more to say about this last prospect here than I did about Alex. And this is not to compare the two, but just because of, if you looked at any Eric Dixon tape at all, the one thing that he does not have a question mark on is scoring the ball. He can score the ball at a high clip. I don't see him going in the first round just because of
the age is a huge red flag.
He's 24.
Right.
Is he the oldest player in the draft?
He's even older than I have. I have him down as 23. He's even older.
Older than he's older than Jameer Watkins, who's 23 ish. I think he's going to be 24 before the season starts. Possibly, I'm not sure. But one thing, if you're going to add a guy, and actually, Jordan, you mentioned Celtics. I think Eric fits Celtics. Just
for sure.
Guy who's ready. Villanova guy. Right. So I do think
obviously he's going to the Knicks then. Actually, he would be good for the Knicks. Actually, he would fit a huge need for the Knicks. Actually.
Not the greatest defender, but offensively, you're drafting this guy for offense. And I do think he does, some of the skill set as far as offense. Finishing around the rim is not something he has a problem with either. He's not an above the rim scorer. However, he is, if I had to slap a label, bully ball, absolute bully ball. Gets to his spots, can shoot the ball. I think
you and I talked about this before the pod. I actually think I'm like too low on him. If I had really done the deep dive again, I think I forgot how much he improved his 3-point shooting this year. Like, he went from a good 3-point shooter to an elite 3-point shooter.
Is it 40%?
It's 40% on like almost 8 a game. Like
253 attempts this year.
Like, he went from, so yeah, he's a bad rebounder. I don't think he's a good defender. But he's an elite 3-point shooter at the 4. And I have him 71. I think that's too low. Like, I really do think I really think that I would have had him over Tui if I had done my deep dive again, because I was still basing him off of last year's projection where he was just a good 3-point shooter. And he really, I didn't realize I knew the scoring went up, but I didn't realize the shooting volume went up that much.
So my thing with the shooting volume, my question with that is, one, Villanova was absolutely horrible this year. They had nobody besides Dixon to take the shots. Their program was just a mess all year, and he was probably the only consistent thing about it. So I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, 8 a game going in at 40% is real.
No, yeah,
that's
real.
Nuts.
Yeah, but like, most of his shots were kind of like, most of his threes were off kind of face ups, and I don't view him as more of a movement shooter. He can shoot off the catch, and he could be a versatile pick and pop option, but but also at the same time, he might be just like too reliant on those dribble face ups and, like Kyle said, the bully balls, those jab moves, those spin counters. So, and he's honestly, on the NBA level, he's not the horizontal athlete. He's not good enough at that level to do that. So if he's going to have to make his threes to thrive in the NBA, defensively is where I am. That's a red flag.
It's a huge worry.
Question mark. Big question mark.
Defense and rebounding are just like major red flags.
He probably doesn't survive in NBA spacing defensively. Like, he will get hunted to death in pick and roll coverages, and he probably is not playable in high leverage playoff minutes.
You know how the Grizzlies call people that they hunt on defense, they call them pigeons? He's a clay pigeon. Like, he doesn't even move. Like,
did he lead if I'm correct, did he lead the country in scoring?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
by a lot. Like,
and there are people
for like 2 points
at a Power 5 level.
There are people who are. I had a different conversation with somebody. The questions with him are, first off, this is a grown man. People, Eric Dixon is This is a grown man. So, like, I think he's like 260, close to 260, solid as heck. The questions with him is the scoring for real from the perspective that he was playing against, like, against other grown men? Is he going to be able to get the scoring off? And unless he's going to get in the gym with Melo, with the jabs and all that type of stuff, it's to be seen what this looks like. So I'm intrigued to see what he does. I'm intrigued to see where he lands. I mean, to me, the questions on defense are interesting just because of age. It's like, if you're not a great defender by this point, you're probably not going to be better than average at this point. Now, granted, I've said this. I think defense is three things. I think it's willingness, I think it's lateral quickness, and I think it's effort. Those things can make you a decent defender. Now, obviously, you could add a fourth with an asterisk here. A lot of that is also technique and just the ability to use your body well, stay in front of your, who you're defending.
And maybe with a lower offensive load, maybe he gets better at the defense. But
probably where his role, Jacob, where they scale down his role much further. He's not going to be taking 8 unless they really figure out like, he can come off the screens. He can come off of this. Maybe we're on an elevator. I don't know. If the threes are that,
he's almost like Steve Novak, like
where you're strictly having him on the floor to shoot
threes and do nothing else, like get out of the way on defense and just shoot threes.
It's to be seen. It also does draw fouls at a pretty high clip.
Yes,
81% from the free throw line. So there are some. He is an offensive forward by all means. I am just hilariously surprised that at his height, size, and weight, that he is not a better defender. The funny thing is the tools are there. The tools are all there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
doesn't he have a good wingspan too? Like, I mean, it's
7 feet.
Yeah, like it's very weird.
He's also just like very wide bodied to me. He's very broad. So I don't know if that plays a factor into it or what.
I guess
maybe he's a Fitbit candidate. Fat is potential in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's one of those.
Yeah, I could totally see him being in the G League and putting up really good numbers.
He's going to be a good G League player.
Like he'll put up numbers there 100%.
So the only other guy that I have in my draft range on my board that we didn't mention in our top 10 is Peyton Sanford. And so I do know that he didn't get an invite to the combine this year. That was weird to me. I really thought he was definitely clearly good enough. So, I think he's a good, we're talking about shooters. I think he's a good shooter and also doesn't do very much else. So, very similar to these last two guys that we've talked about. So I don't have a whole lot I want to say about him other than, I think he could get drafted. So.
Listen, guys, this is our top 10. If your forwards look different, that's cool. We'd love to hear about them.
If they look different, it's probably because we have them marked as a big or a wing. That's probably what's going on.
Right. So to me, we've got bigs finally
coming up.
We're at bigs coming up.
That's gonna be a gauntlet.
That's gonna be the most fun.
I am excited for that one as well because there's so much talent from the bigs perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
a
lot of
deep class for bigs.
We're not just doing 10 bigs, we're doing 15 bigs.
Right.
Because there's just some
there is at least like 14 bigs that will get drafted this year. Like without a doubt.
For sure. So look out for that. We're excited to do it. Thanks for the 113 of you who have popped on and listened to us talk basketball and some of these prospects, especially with the draft coming up this week. So look out for more things from Draft Stack. See y'all later. Peace.
See ya.